So if I had to give a summary of 4.1, it might be something like this. Domain is inputs or x's, range is outputs or y values. Ordered pairs can be used to represent functions. So your x is the input, your y is the output. Functions have one output to each input. So there's only one way, there's only one thing that comes out when you put in something into your machine, but there may be more than one way to get to a certain output, like the squaring function. So there's two different ways to get to the number 4, both positive and negative 2, but when I square 2, only 4 ever comes out. So graphing, doing the domain and range of that, think about if your think about the shadow it would cast. So what shadow would be cast on the x-axis or on the y-axis for your domain and range. We did a couple of those on Hawks. Your vertical line test. If a vertical line intersects your graph more than once, it is not a function. Function notation. Instead of writing y, we're going to write f of x now. That's function notation. That's all that means. The of x with the parentheses, that's not multiplication. That's just, what you're plugging into your function. So we did a couple of those. And then finally for domain, the implied domain, we have 2 conditions that we check. Look for negatives and square roots. Look for zeros and denominators. Those are things that you want to exclude from plugging in, because if you plug them in, then your function doesn't know what to do with them and you get domain error, right? So on your calculator, if you were to try and do square root of -5 and you hit the button, it says error, or sometimes it actually says domain error. That's because you're not allowed to have complex things on your calculator. All right, so functions, super, 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 super important. I cannot stress enough how important they are. Make sure that you really understand this section.